I'll talk about it because narco, that particular narco was conducted at Bangalore, and narco analysis, I can talk about it because it will give a sense about what it is. You go into some sort of nasha when you get it. But you remember some of the questions. And I remember the question which was particularly this. I was asked if when I was a student activist, which organizations you have worked with and which organizations you have worked with them and all that. I mentioned many organizations. BPS, which is an organization that I used to work in. I spoke about the Congress organization, the BJP organization, the Shiv Sena organization. The problem is that the person who was handling the narco analysis at that time, if you remember, she was Dr. Malini. She did not know what is Shiv Sena. I told her who is Shiv Sena, who is the leader of Shiv Sena. At that time, so and then after I came to know that suddenly my students have been joined. And then I realized, I think so, that Abhay Nan case, that Kerala case, is that the Bangalore FSL has been regularly doing it. Getting the narco tapes and then editing them and joining parts of it to make the prosecution happy.
What are the charges about activity?
Yeah, false charges. The case was put, I was acquitted in 2000.
Hi, I'm Ganesh from Stanish. I just wanted to know, in May 2007 you were arrested on a UAPA, and that time the prosecutors had said that you were the chief communicator or propaganda of Naxal, and you along with Ashok Satya Reddy, Bansode and Burli, all four of you were running an outfit there. What do you have to say about that?
I'll get some records here.
Mike, please take the mic.
I was arrested at the station, and I was joined up with them, and the entire police department made a story that we went to Diksha Bhumi and we were planning to blast it. There was no story like that, and nothing actually held in the court also. So this entire story that we were planning to do some bombs, I think so that's all false. I was arrested at the station.
Arun, this is Sukanya from the Indian Express. How many cases do you have pending at present? How many has been disposed of?
One case I'm on bail.
Yeah.
The rest have all been executed.
All.
Yeah.
So it's 10, right, or 8?
8 and no, actually there's one case on me which we had gone on hunger strike.
Yeah.
So I was charged on 309 IPC, that suicide. that is the joke of the country, that we went on hunger strike to tell about the atrocities in jail, and we get another case on us. It was good actually. I think so. The judgment is on the net. The judge actually told out. She said that a person, if they fight for their rights, it does not become a crime. So at the moment, one case which I am on bail.
So basically, you want to say that you're a social activist. That's what.
Yeah.
And the cases against you are all fabricated.
Yeah.
What kind of cases were you subjected to within this prison? I mean, physical harm or manhandling claims? How bad?
Within the prison?
Yes.
Actually, within the prison, you can say it's a mix. The state's attitude towards us is slightly mixed. On one hand, the lower prison authorities are very cordial to us because they know what type of people we are. In fact, and they treat us quite well. But as you go higher up, the higher ups they are politically biased. I'll give you an example. In November and December, I think so November, one of the DIG or the higher level authority came to the prison for his yearly rounds. We as a representative, about 10 of us, we went to meet him. There was a problem about toilets, a problem about code production, various problems. We went to meet him. He heard it, he said, okay, fine. In the next 10 days, among the 10 of us, 9 of them, excepting me, 9 of them were transferred to other jails. 9 of them were transferred to Amravati jail. Now anybody who knows about Vidarbha will understand a person who stays in Gadchiroli, for him, Nagpur itself is very far off. To go to Amravati is like, for a person who stays in the interior of Gadchiroli, it is like traveling from Nagpur to Bombay. In that type of situation, and it takes much more time. So the higher level authorities are much more biased. And like what I said is that the decisions means the CS are as I think so they're putting enemies.
With any physical violence?
No, not. There has been with others, but not with me at least. Is you're talking about police custody or just? Actually, they are.
All the detention.
Interrogation also. During police custody, it was torture, at least in the first part, it was torture all the way. September, when I was, in May, when I was picked up, I think so, all of you have seen my earlier photo. I see in that photo and this photo, there is a vast difference. Actually, when I saw the photo in the papers, I could not recognize myself. One side of mine is totally swollen, and if my ear is bleeding, there's a big difference between that. I was physically tortured, slapped, hit, made to do stretching, and various other things. My co-accused, petrol was inserted in that rectum, and various other standard methods they have done. I would like to say something is that I feel to an extent the state has learned the technique, the technique of how to make the person suffer and not show marks. That is a technique I remember when I was being tortured. There were 2 or 3 police officers talking. One police officer was telling me that if you put your leg in that manner, it will break. I don't know, but he knew that if my leg was bended slightly like that, it would break. So he told me, no, you put your leg like this. I was thinking, this is the guy who is torturing me. But yet he cares for me. No, he cares that if my leg breaks and I complain in the court, he'll but they've learned the technique that how the body should be positioned, how I should be hit, in which place I should be hit, so the marks don't show and they get their work done. Now, some of you are aware, there's last year I think so, the government was trying to pass a prevention of torture bill, if you all remember it. I've written a small piece on it. Actually, I could say that the prevention of torture bill is more of a farce. It's trying to fulfill the obligations of the UN Convention Against Torture, where it has made it obligatory for all states signatories of the convention to pass laws to ban torture. But the government bill does no way of thing like that. In fact, people like us who are arrested under UPA will be denied that we can complain about torture. That is the bad part side of this.
How did you manage to go through this torture? How did you manage to cope and still remain sane?
I know sometimes I wonder how I did it. But I think so, somewhere down the line, when you do, through my activity, I realized that I came to realize that the state, especially after 2001, there's a change. If you go to see after 2001, the state has become more and more to an extent aggressive. After 9/11, you could say that thoughts, actions, people's thoughts and actions have become more and more criminal. Means the state labels them criminal. And somewhere down the line, I felt that if, say, at a time when I used to work among the slum dwellers during the riots, 90 to 93, the state wouldn't be bothered if I would give say free fruits or free medicines to the slum dwellers. State won't be bothered because it comes within their neoliberalization policy. But when I start talking to the poor and I start telling them this is the reason of your poverty, this is the reason why you are medically weak, that's where the state starts becoming unacceptable to me. So somewhere down the line I knew that the state was taking such positions. So you could say mentally, the day I got arrested, I've been reading stories and of torture and all. I knew that somehow they are down the line, I also would get tortured.
Arun, this is Abhijit from TV9 News Channel. So my question is that you talked about the differences of ideology between you and the state. What are those differences, and are those differences enough to establish that you were a political prisoner?
Actually, this is what a point I tried to say this before is that the ideology which the state sees as a threat. I'm not talking about say Naxalism. I'm not talking of anything like that. And now,
Your personal ideology with the differences.
let me speak about it. Is that any ideology which the state sees as a threat, they'll bring in something which they want to show that the reason for crushing it. You will go into the Jaitapur movement, the state will somehow someone who they say that is a Naxal. They will go to the anti-POSCO movement, they will say, there are Naxals there. Now in Anna Hazare's movement, they are saying Anna Hazare is, he has a coterie of anarchists and Maoists. They talk like that. So the state has that type of policy that whenever there is a movement, it sees red. And my ideology have been left. I have been a left activist. So definitely the state will definitely brand me as an Naxal tomorrow. Yes.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
My question is this: after the torturing by police, I am Kalpana Brahmane from News 9. After the torturing by police, after that they will give some medicine or something.
The rule is that every 48 hours a medical doctor has to examine us. And I'll tell you. So the medical doctor sits with the police department, with the police officer. And if I say that I was tortured, the doctor will nod. And it will be signed and it will be done. I see the records afterwards and I found out that there's no mention about my torture and anything else. I'll give an example.
You are beaten by the police and tortured by the police. So they are not writing that something like this.
And this happens.
They're government doctors.
It happens.
There's no action there.
They're government doctors. They're. Yeah, the nexus between that. Yeah.
See, the point I'm trying to say is that the doctor who's working out there is actually working with the cops at that place. I'll give an example is that my co-accused, he had complained to the High Court that the petrol was put in him. He complained to High Court. The High Court immediately, within 48 hours, ordered that he should be medically examined. He was medically examined. The doctor was there, and the SDPO was there, and the doctor gave the report that he had piles. So, sometimes it's very tough. The police isn't close nexus with the doctors.
When we heard you quoting
Who's there? Nobody's there. They're saying goodbye.
Shaktiman,
Shaktiman Tiwari from Mumbai, madam. A couple of years ago, there were reports that certain prisoners, incarcerating on allegations of indulging in Naxalite activities, were given newspapers with certain portions of the news blacking out. Did you go through something like that?
Yeah, very often. In fact, it's a blacking out is cut. And any news which talks about the jail department is cut. Just a few days before I was released, there was one of our jailers got arrested in a corruption case. He tried to take 5,000 or 10,000. I never got to read the news but we knew something was going on because the papers since then have been cut. So any news with regards to jail department, even I think so in Jharkhand there was a minister Madhukar Koda who was beaten up in the jail. I don't remember. That news totally cut off. There are anything which deals with the jail department is cut. I don't know the logic behind it, but it's cut.
Two questions. Firstly, we heard you quoting Mr. Ahmed cracking down on the police modus operandi in your co-accused case. Are there any particular observations he has quoted with reference to your own case as such?
This judge which I'm quoting is not, I think you got it wrong, it's not the present judge. It is the ex-principal judge. My new cases, earlier I had cases only on Gondia. only in Gondia. So I never had a case in Gadchiroli. These new cases which they have put on me is Gadchiroli cases. So nothing much. And the day that my last case was under 30th, I have not got any order in that.
And secondly, these 4.5 years must have been very harrowing for your family. If we talk about your son who last saw you when he was 6 months old, how is he coming to terms with it now, and how is your interaction with him? If you could.
Yeah, I think so. I'll avoid this personal question.
Is there anything else of Supreme? So
Any more questions?
Varun, in your opinion, what causes rebellion among the disadvantaged? Is it economic disparity, or is it denial of criminal justice system, a functioning criminal justice system?
See, as a leftist, I would say economic disparity is one of the main reasons, but I think so society is quite complicated to just give one reason to it. Various reasons. I'll give you an example of what is happening in Egypt out there now. It's so many factors that take place. Means just to say one reason, just because economic disparity or just because of criminal justice, there are many factors. At some point of time, a certain factor may spark out something, but it depends upon the case. Definitely, even in the past few years, actually in the past say 10-15 years, economic disparity has grown to a big extent.
I just wanted, I think, paraphrase what you're saying is whether the state's repressive apparatus is helping the state to control who they describe as their enemy, or is it actually helping the enemy to grow stronger? Because as far as I can see, the more repression they use, it works in the exact opposite manner from what they think.
I'll give you two examples. These last two examples, one is the Chandrapur case which was put on me, and now some arrests which have taken place in Pune. These are two places where there are organizations, people's organizations being run by good, committed activists. Like, I don't know about these, I think so Kabir Kala Manch, which runs in Pune now, and many of them have been arrested. I don't know the facts about their case. But I can talk about the Chandrapur guys because many of them were my co-accused. That was an organization that before the time they were arrested, they had nearly a 5,000 rally of just youth in the district center in Chandrapur. In the district center of Chandrapur, 5,000 is lots of young men. It became a threat to the state. Immediately within 3 months, the state cracked on it, arrested the leaders, and now there is no organization like that. I think so the same thing is going on in Pune. Kabir Kala Manch, which I worked on the 2 terms, it was a cultural organization which mobilized many people, brought democratic culture to the fore, and now the state has cracked on it. It means the democratic space which should be given for the good democratic society is slowly being crushed and reduced to an extent.